Hello everyone and welcome to DBF1 Season 6. It's rounds 7 and 8. We're almost at the halfway stage of the season as we've just seen Daniel P. finish his run in qualifying with just over 8.5 minutes to go. He joins the third row of the grid in P5. It's currently Jessica Ball on provisional pole leading the way just about a tenth ahead of Casper, who did his lap on the mediums. Casper filling in for Wace. And Lewis Craig rounds out the top three in your qualifying session so far. Looks like Jordan is on a lap as well, so we'll watch him as we go through the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Jenga Boy, who's not going to be here for the rest of the season now on 136. His closest rival, Lewis Craig, on 89. Sheck Waste not here tonight on 76. And the man on your screen, Jordan, also on 76 points, so he can gain some places on Waste tonight. CJH is here as well. He's on 64 with Jess Games on 61. Daniel P. Wheelnut on 59. The reserve Casper currently on the front row of the grid. He's on 54 points with JL Mac on 54 as well. And Acorn rounds out the top 10 on 50. And news in the constructors, Cyber on top, 136. Ferrari doing the business at the moment, 113 points combined as Jordan's coming across the line now, moves on to the front row of the grid. Those medium tyres are absolutely firing up for Jordan and Casper. Is this one of those circuits where we'll see the mediums, if you do an out lap and then another push lap followed by a second push lap is just the quicker tyre? We're watching Lewis now as he finishes his lap. He's in hot lap on them soft compounded tyres. We're not sure what his first two split times have been, but he's needing to find around 2 tenths for a pole position place right now, and it is pole position for Lewis Craig at the moment. 2 thousandths of a second ahead of Jessica Ball. The battle for pole position here, if Casper doesn't set a decent lap time on the softs, is going to be spicy. We'll continue going through the order. I think Chris has just popped himself up into 5th place as well. J.O. Mac, he's the next driver on a lap now. He's in P6 at the moment. He's had a good season in qualifying. J.O. Mac, Scottish Goat, but he needs to translate that into results in the race, which he's not been able to do so this season. Back to the constructors, though. Alpine in third on 89 with Racing Bulls on 87. Red Bull 86 in 5th. Williams on 78. The defending champions Haas on 76 down in 7th. Aston Martin 63. McLaren 39. And Mercedes 32 points. And not helped by Darky. Darky obviously joint most pole positions in DBF1 history, not taking part in qualifying in this first race. He has a qualifying ban for intentionally retiring on the track last week, so cost himself the opportunity there. And it looks like J.O. Mac is going to come into the pits. He's abandoned his lap. Jake isn't improving. CJH looks like CJ is improving at the moment. We'll stick with him and see what his time's going to be. The Racing Bulls driver, couple of wins in dive bomb. He wants to improve on that. Has an opportunity at the championship if he can kind of sort out his form in the second half of the season. He's 6 times up as we come now to the double final right-hander of the racetrack round. Those final corners don't invalidate. He doesn't. The Flying Englishman, what's it going to be on the run up to the line now for CJ? Only P5, 8 tenths of improvement. More pace in that Racing Bulls, you'd imagine, for CJH as the night goes on. We'll see if there's anyone else on a lap. I think Gamer James is not improving. Baza, Dex not improving. We'll stick with Baza. Race number 72 out of 80 for Baza tonight. Only missed 8 races in dive bomb history. An incredible statistic when you think about it. Only picked up the 1 race win, but I bet that felt very important for him as he's on the run up to the line now. Almost fine 7.5 tenths, but only at 1 position, so not looking too good around here for the Red Bull driver at the moment. Still plenty of time in qualifying, so he's got another lap to go if he can get back ground in time, which you'd imagine he would be able to. Is Jordan on a push lap now? He's on those mediums. He's got the battery back up to 100. Is he going to go again, or is he going to come into the pits? It's a fast lap, so he might have time to go again and then come in and come out again. We'll see. He's actually probably going to run out of fuel here, Jordan. And Jordan taking the pit lane correctly, which is going to catch a few drivers out tonight. There wasn't a message in the chat to remind them. The drivers should just know by now. That you have to take the pit lane here in Miami. You have to take the pit lanes the correct way. You cannot cut the line. It's an automatic 3-second time penalty for drivers if they do that after the race. See, 3 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but especially down to Austria, the tyre deficit isn't really that big. As you can tell, the mediums are up there, third and fourth. Chris's quickest lap, I think, was on the mediums as well. Acorn not finding any pace here at the moment. They're going to be 14th and 15th. Disappointing qualifying for them. Obviously, Darky wasn't able to compete, and Kaya's not had the best showing, which I think is his first race of the season for Mercedes as their permanent driver. Daniel Pibilna looking quick through sector 2, 3/10ths up in the Ferrari. He'll want to improve on 10th. He's got a lot more pace on offer, does the Manxman. But on board with the Ferrari as he goes round the final corner now. He'll stick it in to overtake, open a DRS. What will it be on the run up to the line? It's a second row start for Daniel with only 2.5 minutes to go in quali. He's going to have to be quick to get back round, and I think that might be it actually for Daniel. He's going to start no higher than P3. Good luck for him if it stays there. And it looks like Scottish Goat, JO Mac 10, is going to be the first of the two drivers to come out now. The Ferrari's doing the quick strategy of them coming out early, using the space on the track that they've got at the moment. And it's a purple sector 1 for Scottish Goat. We're on board with the Ferraris. He comes down the hill now towards turn 4, brakes as late as he possibly can, swings the car in through the sweeping right-hander, and will just glide now through the double left-hander. His teammate will move out the way there on the left, which is why they're yellow flags. It won't affect him too much. Will Scottish Goat, he would have been expecting that, and it's looking like a fairly quick lap here that could be provisional pole if he can find about 2/10ths of a second in this final sector. He's now coming to the swooping right-hander. Use all the track he possibly can. Don't cut the corner or extend. It's pretty slow through the final corner. What will it be for Scottish Goat? Only 7th place. So he wasn't able to find much time in that final part of the lap, and everyone now is on outlaps. We'll see who's going to be first to cross the line. I think it's going to be Jess. So Jess now, she's in second place, front row start, which she had in both races last week, I believe, a front row start. She'll be looking to keep that form going. She'll be wanting a race win and dive bomb. And we'll see, she'll be the first to go, she'll be the first to cross the line, and the person that will set the benchmarker down. The Red Bull contracted driver now opens the DRS for her final run here at Austria qualifying. On the run up now, up the hill to turn 1, brake just after that 100 metre board, swooping, using a bit of the curb on the right hand side and trying to avoid the sausage curb on the left now, onto the resurfaced part of the racetrack, up the hill to, well, it's turn 2, but we'll say turn 3 just to keep the fans happy. Swooping right hander now up the hill to come back down will Jess be. The split time wasn't too bad in comparison to what Lewis and Jordan and Casper are going to set. It's a bit of a lock up there as you hear the car screeching as we were on board. It's not looked too clean so far through the first few sectors. That might be just the sound effects of the car throwing how the lap time's going, because she's 3/10ths up and it's purple in sector 2, and she surely is going to set a provisional pole time here, and is going to set the benchmarker down for Lewis, Jordan, Casper, CJ to mount the challenge if they can. Round the final corner she comes now, opens up that DRS for the final time. It's provisional pole, a 1:45 for Jessica Ball, and what can Lewis Craig do to counter that? I don't think he is just about to come up to the split 2 time. He's improving, but he's invalidated. I've missed that there. Lewis Craig won't improve his lap time. Where's Casper in all this? He's got a bit to go. CJ, probably the next driver that could mount a challenge to pole. He's improving by 1/10 of a second now. He needs a big third sector. He'll be hoping he's made a mistake earlier on in the session on his lap, because he needs a massive third sector to stick this one on pole position. Does the Englishman. Round the final corner he'll come. Lewis Craig doesn't improve in his time because he's invalidated. CJ sneaks onto the front row of the grid with a P2. Jordan, what can he do? Only 5th. He doesn't improve in the end. It's a 10th down. Casper, though, is improving by 4/10ths of a second. It looks like this might be provisional pole. I think it was only fourth for Casper. Yeah, it was only fourth for Casper at the end there. He was last to cross the line, and well, the driver you'd expect to be on pole position, not quite able to do so, and Jessica Ball takes her first dive bomb pole 2 tenths ahead of the nearest challenger. Congratulations to her. CJ on the front row of the grid there at the DEF. Lewis Craig invalidated, meaning he'll start no higher than P3. Casper up in fourth place with Daniel Pugliona and Jordan fifth and sixth. Scottish Goat and Acorn on the fourth row of the grid. They'll be disappointed not to beat Jordan, who set his time on the mediums. Gamer James beats his teammate in qualifying for the first time in a while, with Chris Johnston rounding out the top 10. And obviously the top 6 score points, so that's 6 points to Jessica before the night even begins. And Lewis Craig closes the gap by 4 points on Jenga Boy. Obviously not going to compete for the rest of the season. I believe he's in the chat, so welcome to him. Obviously a former DBF, one of the former DBF1 race winners. He's got a pole position as well. Had the championship lead. Be interesting to see what he can do if there's a return on the cards in the future. It is looking gloomy here in Austria. Maybe the opportunity of some wet weather, which would be interesting. We had this here in season 3. We started on the intermediate compounds, and then it ended up being soft. Some drivers stayed on the inters, went to the end, some boxed, and for the softs, and it was a fantastic result of the Grand Prix. Hambo picked up the win. Alistair just managed to sneak second at the end. Henners was the driver that stayed out in the intermediates. He got a podium. He was behind Lewis Craig, who was one of the first drivers to come in for the softs. And then Lewis didn't have the pace to catch up to Henners back in season 3. Seems so long ago. But it's race number 80 of Dive Bomb. A massive achievement for us. It has been a long time coming. Obviously, the league's been on the go since F1 2019. And we've obviously had the break on 2021 and 22. Came back for F1 23, did 2 seasons, and then we had another break on 24. Obviously, we provided the TV production for TGP, and we're on the front row of the grid now. It's 4-5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix. It's Jess versus CJ. Red Bull versus Racing Bull. Jess gets away well, and it looks like Lewis has as well, because he's mugged CJH off the line. Will CJ be able to get back down? The Ferraris are close to making contact, but they managed to avoid it. Looks like Jordan's dropped down the order off the beginning of the lap, and Lewis is ahead of CJ. Can CJ get back past? He's moving left and right to try to find some space. And the Ferraris have had a great start. Jordan trying to fight back, but he's had a bit of a moment at the front of his car, and that allows Scottish Goat back down around the outside. Lewis Craig around the outside of Jess for the lead of the Grand Prix. These are important moments in the beginning of this Grand Prix. They're side by side now through the second sector, and Jess just doesn't have enough grip on those tyres yet. They're not heated up enough off the start, and Casper and CJ are battling behind as well. There's a bit of love tapping. It looks like CJ's managed to hang on there, and yeah, Jess loses the lead of the Grand Prix. Important critical moments in this Grand Prix for the race lead. She needs to hang on to Lewis and cannot let Lewis find that pace that he had at Mexico last week. Lewis, this is crucial for him. He wants to win the championship. If he's going to win the championship, he needs to beat Casper. People like Casper, who has only showed up a couple of weeks, obviously as a reserve. And there's a move further back. Looks like Darky's up ahead of Jake, who's got damage. So a good start from Darky up 5 places. And CJ now might be the next driver to make a move on Jess. She's getting swamped down the inside. There is the Red Bull driver. She's trying to fight it with everything she's got. Has she got the traction out of this corner? Not quite. CJ now up into P2. Good start for CJ after that moment with Lewis Craig. Now he's going to try and sneak down the inside of Lewis here. He's doing the best he can, but a bit of a moment on the front of the car, and Lewis hangs on. So Jess not settled into this race just yet. Casper on the hard compounds, maybe why he's finding it a bit difficult to make places off the beginning. He'll be going long in this Grand Prix. Obviously the safety car could cause him some problems if it does come out. It won't come out this Grand Prix actually. Casper will have that to worry about. The safety car's been moved to race 2 as Daniel P. Whelan, I think, is the Ferrari that's gone wide, and Lewis already moving to the right hand side of the racetrack, and Casper now should get past Jess into turn 1. She defends it very well. Now, can she get settled down? Can she close the gap now on to CJ? But she's looking in her wing mirrors, because here comes Casper looking to the right hand side, and it looks like the Haas driver for tonight is going to be up onto the podium. Yes, he is. Lovely move, and Jess just struggling at the moment to hold on to these positions. Obviously 3 very quick drivers up ahead, and she'll be doing her best to kind of stay with them. She's one of those drivers, very consistent, and not getting involved in any drama or accidents, so she just needs to keep going, and she's got the pace to beat the Ferraris as Chris moves ahead of James now up into 8th place. Good move for Chris Johnson. He'll be wanting to keep going forward. If he can close the gap to Jordan and get past, he'd love that. And it looks like Darky's had a bit of a moment, because he's dropping down the field. And I think he's just done that on his own, Darky, and he's retired. Yeah, and he's retired on the racetrack again. So he's just had a penalty for that, and he's going to be getting another one. Anyway, we'll move on quickly and swiftly. Casper now on the back of CJ on the hard compounds. A very quick driver. Obviously, Casper picked up a win in his debut Grand Prix, but CJ going down the inside of Lewis, and Lewis and CJ have made contact. And Lewis had to take evasive action and go off the racetrack. He's still in 2nd place. It's going to drop to 3rd, and Casper's going to get around the outside of CJ, but CJ's going to fight it as much as he can. Maybe push the Finnish driver a bit wide, and CJ hangs on to the lead there. In the grass goes Casper. He's trying to get down the inside. He's not got enough room on the racetrack to do so, which will allow Lewis to come back down the inside here. He's trying to regain P2. He'll feel fairly undone, and he should be in P1, Lewis, but then that'll be something they'll have to talk about later if he hasn't got damage and he's ahead of CJH. I think that might have been a bit tactical from CJ to let Lewis back through. I think he knew what he done was questionable, and maybe not going to the stewards later on now, because the CJ did let him back through as soon as he possibly could. Lewis is inviting Jess, and I tell you what, all the way down to 8th place are right in on this battle here. Chris Johnson within the DRS as Lewis gets passed by Casper, and Casper going for the double overtake into turn 3 to take the lead, but it looks like it might be the switcheroo for CJ. Not quite enough. Casper leads from CJ now, and Casper in clean air without any drama might be able to sail off into the sunset as the Ferraris might be swapping places here. Daniel trying to fight it around the outside, that will turn to the inside, and his teammate might be hung out to dry here, but he's going to go for it. Scottish Goat. Will the 2 teammates leave the space? He did, Daniel, and he defended that beautifully, did the Manxman, and it might allow Jordan to have a go at Daniel's teammate Scottish Goat. Round the outside it does. The Ferrari's battling. Means Jordan can then move up the order, and there's a contact between them. That will allow Chris to have an opportunity here at making the move. Looks like Chris is going to get it as Daniel P. that came into the pits. I think Lewis Craig's on the back of CJ now. They've dropped that 1 second to Casper. CJ also has that time penalty that he must have picked up on the previous lap. Lewis trying to fight his way into P2. He doesn't want Jess to have an opportunity here overtaking him, and it looks like Lewis around the outside might have the possibility to. He'll need to be brave though. CJ not letting much people give him an opportunity around the outside, and he's defending okay at the moment. His overtake was a bit questionable, but his defending's been good. And they're losing touch of Casper now that they've not got Casper involved in the battles. And Casper obviously at risk of the undercut with the hard compounds, but he'll have the quicker tyres at the end. As I think that's Jess Ball coming into the pits on the mediums. That is a fairly early stop. And she is the driver we'll watch in her pit stop phase. We'll keep an eye on that time between Lewis and CJ if it comes down, if there's the opportunity for an overtake. But Jess now into the pits. What tyres will it be? It's hards. So she's made the decision early to go for the undercut, as Lewis Craig now coming down the inside of CJ. Should be enough now to get that move done and dusted. Yes, it is. CJ might come back at him down that straight with the DRS assistance and a bit of the ERS battery deployment. Lewis will make him go round the long way, and CJ does so. He goes a bit wide. Will that allow Lewis to have a sneak back up the inside? We're watching in the rear view mirror. We can't quite see CJ. CJ is hanging on to P2 at the moment. Lewis Craig won't be too happy with that. Obviously Casper 2.2 down the road now. They're losing touch with him. And will one of these drivers peel into the pits? You'd imagine they would, with Jess doing the undercut. Lewis Craig, oh, he's gone deep. He used the pit lane, maybe tricked CJ into thinking he was going to pit and then peeled back out, which is obviously allowed. You only have to... He crossed the line, so he couldn't come back in to the pit lane, which is the rule. You can cross the line and not go into the pit lane. To do that, you can do that, but once Lewis obviously went back over the line, he couldn't then come into the pit lane. That was what would have given him a penalty. And Scottish got now the Ferrari into the pits, the second of the two Ferraris in the pits. We'll just have a look at the time to the leader. 20.4. Daniel's actually overtaken Jess, but I think Jess has just gotten past him. Yeah. So Daniel's undercut worked. He got past Jess, and Jess has managed to make quick work of that though. Chris Johnson on the back of Jordan, obviously old rivals and teammates from years go by in the TGP series, and we'll see what they can do. They've got Baza for company. Race 72 of 80 for Baza. He's part of the tarmac on the race road for us in Dive Bomb. And CJ and Lewis both in the pits now. This is crucial. No time penalties allowed here. And they both survive it. We'll check what the tyres are. You'd imagine, would the softs go 9 laps? Something we'd have to find out for. We'll see. We'll stick with Lewis. I think that was the hards that went on that car. And then where's Jess? Jess is going to get both of them here. So, she lost all the places in the beginning, and now she's got Daniel in between Lewis and CJ for company. Chris has got past Jordan, but Baz has passed both of them, and Chris is in the grass there. Not sure if that was himself or Jordan went a wee bit left. But Baza was at the battle of this pack. That's kind of the battle for 8th, 9th and 10th. Obviously these guys legends of the sport, but they've had a good, strong showing in this early phase of this Grand Prix, especially Chris, being fairly impressive in the opening stint. He'll be coming into box soon. I think maybe Baz's hard compounds that he began the race on are starting to come to him in a way that the mediums are drifting from Chris and Jordan. They're going to have to come in soon. They're running the risk of guys further back doing the undercut, or maybe they're going long to try and survive that soft stint. Daniel doing good work of hanging on to Jess here. She got past him fairly quick, but not getting away too quick. Lewis has dropped CJ by 1 second. It's 1.5 that gap now, so Lewis doesn't seem to have to worry about that too much. What he does need to worry about is overtaking Daniel and overtaking Jess, because Daniel doesn't need to let Lewis through. Daniel's here on merit. This is his true position once the top 4 come into the pits. You'd imagine Casper will drop places when he pits, but he should find his way back up. He's obviously going to go onto the soft compound and then have some extremely quick pace, and Lewis now is closing the gap on these two up ahead. Under 4 tenths is the gap. Jess is at a couple of questionable corners in that second sector now, and she's going to have to watch out, because Daniel is a driver with a lot of pride, and the runner-up last season wasn't able to pick up the victory that he was so desperate for. He'll be wanting a good result tonight. He's on course for a podium at the moment. And his podium hopes might be fading, because here comes the second place man in the championship. He's going for the most victories in dive bomb history. He's still got 5 more to pick up to do so, but he's wanting to do that before the season's out. Damien Greenbean's record of 12 is still sitting pretty in first place, and he's past Daniel now, and he's got Jessica Ball in his sights. She's driving his car, his Red Bull. He had that in season 3. He loved it. That was his car, and he didn't want to get rid of it. He wanted to drive it again, but Jess's obviously contract obligation to drive the car made Lewis had to drive the Alpine, which he's not been too happy with the Alpine and car selection this season. But if he wins the championship, obviously gets free picks, so could end up being teammates with Jess again if he wins the championship. It would be a fairly strong team and probably a bit unfair to the rest of the grid, but if that happens, it happens, and we'll need to try and make the teams out front strong as well to challenge them. I think we could come up with some good combinations of teams, as Lewis Craig now is not worried about his teammate for next year. He's worried about his championship this year, and getting past Jess is all that matters in this stage of the Grand Prix, as they keep closing up to Casper as well. They've gained about 2 seconds on him, as Lewis now is past Jess for the net P2 in this race, possibly provisional lead. And the more cars Lewis can get between himself and Casper, well, you'd like to hope Casper is going at full pelt. You want him to do the best he can in the race, and you don't want him to give anyone the win. But Casper into the pit lane now, getting rid of those hard compounds. And on go those red striped softs. Not many drivers have used them tonight. I think it'll just be Baza and Casper that have done so. And he is passed by Jordan. This is the crucial part now. Does he stay ahead of Lewis, who's just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix? He does. Casper comes out ahead. They didn't gain enough. They were battling too much in the early phase. And I think CJ, who's got 6 seconds worth of penalties, is going to get past Daniel P. Wheelnut. Yep, he does. Up into P5. Drops a few places though. Once those penalties will be applied at the end of the race. Casper took the pit lane correctly as well. We caught the end of it. So it looks like everyone's okay for penalty wise in the pit lane. It looks like everyone's taking it the natural route, or they watched the stream beforehand. And Lewis picking up 18 championship points here, put him not quite in the championship lead, but he'll be close. He'll be the only driver to breach 100 that isn't named Jenga Boy. Casper edges closer to the title hunt sort of area, obviously reserving tonight. Will he be able to reserve some more? We'll have to find out. I don't think he'll reserve enough to win the championship, but he'll be wanting the highest position possible in that championship with as little races as possible to show his true pace, and that if he was in for 20 races, what damage he could do. And Chris is up into 7th as Jordan is coming to the pits. Chris a bit in no man's land now. He's got Baza 2 seconds behind, 6 seconds behind the Scottish GOAT. He'd be pretty happy with a 7th place though, after the last couple of weeks he's had. And if he can hang on to that 7th place, obviously not the result he wants, but he'd probably take it after the last few 10ths and 11ths he's had. Some solid points. And Ferraris, he's gaining time on the Ferraris, so Ferraris could make a mistake, and if they end up battling each other, we'll have to keep an eye out on it. Lewis 2.3 behind Casper now, who's on fresh rubber. You'd imagine next time Casper comes round, it would be the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and an extra bonus point going his way. There you go, actually, it was the fastest lap that time around, 6.203 for Casper. So he's going for 3 qualifying points, 1 fastest lap and 25 points. Not quite the max Hawley took in the opening race of last week. But on lap 15, with just under 4 laps to go, it's been a very good race, managed well by Casper. He had to juggle the early phase laps in the first stint, as Scottish Goat gets past Daniel Peewee on it, but goes in the gravel, and he's gone in the gravel big time there. He's over cooked the corner, and this will allow Chris to close the gap, you'd imagine. The gap is absolutely falling down now to 4 seconds from 6.8. It's gone under 4 seconds now, and a mistake from Scottish Goat, and we're 5th and 6th is some good points and a good result for the Ferraris, and their kind of ability as teammates to finish so similar positions is why they're going to lead the constructors after tonight's Grand Prix. They just seem to lack that consistency and discipline to make that 5th and 6th change from 5th and 6th to a 3rd and 4th or a 2nd and 3rd. They just can't quite take that next step. They're sort of in that Red Bull phase when Ferrari and Mercedes were the only team winning, and Max and Daniel couldn't quite pick up the wins. Eventually they obviously did, but they just couldn't quite. You knew who was going to finish 5th and 6th. It was going to be Daniel and Max. They sort of seemed to have that vibe about them. Do the Ferraris at the moment. They need to pick up some more discipline, and you'll imagine over the season they'd be able to do so. Obviously Daniel Peewee that we know very well from the GGP series that we provided coverage for. He is obviously a former champion in his own right, and he'll be doing his best to find that sort of form in that Ferrari that he wants to keep the seat for next season. Scottish Goat, obviously in the Alpine last season, one of the drivers that picked up so many podiums in that second stint of last season. That second half of last season is where he really picked up his form after a poor start. CJ right on the back of Jess now for that final step in the podium. Obviously the penalties will shoot Jess back up, which is why she doesn't fight it too much. As Scottish Goat picks up the penalty there, as Baza passes Chris on the soft tyres with also a penalty. So on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, it's Casper from Lewis from CJ, and Jess should have enough here in the tank to not lose 6 seconds to CJ and pick up P3. P3's her position. I think that's her. I think she'd prefer a P3 in a win sometimes. She's always seems to be in third, as I think Jake and Acorn are having a bit of a battle further back. Jake had damage early on, which has kind of knackered his race. I don't think Austria is sort of a track that he really likes either. Seems to struggle in race 1 of the night, does Jake, as he gets up into 11th place now. 6.5 behind his teammate, and he's gone in the gravel, and that puts Acorn in the gravel, and that allows Tony ahead. I'm not sure if Acorn's gone in the gravel because of Jake, or if that was just a mistake. But Acorn, obviously 2 wins in Dive Bomb. Not had a great season this season, but obviously that's down to the lack of practice. Obviously picking up a lot more tennis matches and doing a couple of marathons I've seen in the chat, so good on deck. And we'll be hoping to see him back in full swing and winning Grand Prix. He actually won Bahrain a season or 2 ago, so you'd imagine he'll be pretty quick in the next race as well. Naturally, as CJ closes the gap to Lewis now on the final lap. He's obviously got 6 seconds worth of penalties, so it doesn't really matter too much. All things considered for the Grand Prix. Scottish Goat's on the back of his teammate as well, but that won't matter. He's got a time penalty as well. Well, he's not had much screen time tonight, Casper, except from the first 4 laps. He handled it brilliantly under the pressure. He managed the Grand Prix perfectly. It wasn't pole, but it's the race win for Casper in Austria. Lewis will come home in 2nd place. Jessica Ball will be on the podium as well. CJ will hang on to 4th. Daniel's a wee bit too far behind to steal 4th from him, so it's 5th for Daniel, 6th for Scottish Goat. Oh, will it be 7th for Baza? Nope. Race 72, it's only 8th for him. 9th, sorry, Jordan managed to steal it away from him in the end there. Gamer James 10th. Jake is going to come round in 11th place and pick up 4 championship points. And Acorn will get Tony. And then Kaya will pick up the final points paying position of the night. And he's obviously a bit far back, Kaya, but he's gone to the end. He's picked up a point for his team, which is what these teams need the drivers to do. They need their drivers to pick up points. And there you have it. That was the Austrian Grand Prix. It got a bit lackluster towards the end. But it was a brilliant beginning, and we had a nice undercut kind of strategy coming along to see what would happen. But it's that man again, the Finnish driver, picking up his second dive bomb win in 3 races. Congratulations to him. He handled that pressure in the beginning of the Grand Prix extremely well and managed to come away the victor for Haas. The Haas team's second win of the season, obviously Wace won the opener, the defending champion not here. Lewis Craig on that podium again in P2. That's 2 P2s and a win in the last 3 Grand Prix for him. So the Scotsman doing a grand job of sort of inserting himself now as that championship favourite with Jenga Boy not being here. And it's a good podium for Jess. Obviously she missed a week a couple of weeks ago. Lewis also missed a week as well, so kind of evening it out. Jess is sort of coming back into that title hunt conversation and not had much experience in this game compared to the last one, so we'll be hoping she can get herself a couple of race victories and insert herself in there. I'm going to give my voice a break while we have the 2 minute sort of interval between Grand Prix. Coming up, one shot quali, 25% 25% Grand Prix, sorry. With this safety car. No, it is a 35% Grand Prix with the safety car. So a bit of a longer race, shorter qualifying, potential safety cars, all coming your way in the next few moments. So we're here in the paddock in Bahrain, 30 seconds until the session begins. Obviously, we hope the drivers all remember their setups and have finished their half-time oranges. We had a bit of a 2-minute wee interval in between the two lobbies, and Bazza got them set up for us. Thank you to him. This is race 73 for Bazza, race 81 for Dive Bomb F1 as Casper won race 80. So congratulations to Casper. He'll go down in history, as a lot of the other drivers will go, as this sort of qualifying order sorts itself out on my screen. Yeah, well, watch Jordan. And we'll put the pressure on him as he goes in the run into turn one. I'm seeing his eyes for some reason. We're on board now, as for some reason we're seeing his eyes. But now attacking turns 2 and 3, he'll open up the steering, opens the DRS, and use as much as that track as the car will allow him to get turned. Brake as late as you possibly can, around 75 metres, swoop right, and don't go over that line where Lewis Hamilton picked up a time penalty back in the day. And Jordan looking fairly quick through this first part of the lap, as Casper, Lewis and CJ are battling away for pole position. Darky has invalidated / retired, so he's going to be starting 15th for the second race in a row, and Casper and Lewis battling away for the lead in this qualifying session. Jordan in 4th, doing an honest job as well. He's not too far adrift of them. It was a bit squirrely on the throttle pedal there out of that corner, but it's looking okay up the hill for the Williams driver. It was the championship favourite coming into the season. He didn't believe that was a true kind of indication of what his goals for the title would be winning the championship, but he's doing a job and trying to keep up with the likes of Lewis and CJ. But it looks like it's going to be Casper on pole. Yes, it is, to Lewis Craig. Jordan managed to sneak P3 in the end there. So Casper picks up his second pole position, I believe that is, in DBF1. It might actually be 3 and 4 races. So you'll be into the top 10 now as we'll run through the order. If Codemasters will let me see it, that is. No, they won't. Well, thank you very much for that, Codemasters. We'll see it on the grid before we get going. But the floodlights are on. The racetrack will be glooming. It's how many laps is this Grand Prix going to be? I think it's 19 laps coming. Safety cars available as well. It's going to be a very, very entertaining Bahrain Grand Prix. Casper leading the way. We'll see if he can win 2 races on the go. That would be fantastic for him if he can do so, and would put him over 100 points in the championship. And he's probably not going to race again between now and the end of the season, but he'd probably still have a pretty high result in the championship after that as well. "20 laps we're hearing from the Williams driver. Jordan, thank you very much. 20 laps of action. So we got a long Grand Prix ahead. Softs are going to be a risk to use around here. They'll fade fairly quickly at the rears, and you might stick them on, gambling for an early safety car possibly. Safety car on increased. Might be worth the risk there. But then you could go hard and go long and hope for a safety car in the middle of the Grand Prix and get a free pit stop. There's loads of strategy involved in this 35% race with the safety car on increased as well. We just hope that all 15 drivers can make it to the end. Darky retired on track in Austria, so that is a penalty coming his way again in Singapore next week. We have 5 lights. It's Lewis versus Casper on the front row of the grid. We've got no sign, but they're away under the lights in the desert. Will Casper manage to hang on to the lead, and like Jess was able to do so in the beginning of her start? Yes. Casper from Lewis. Jordan's managed to hang on to his 3rd place from CJ, and Jess, who's down in 5th place, going to try and mount a challenge. She's taking the risk of the softs, and CJ's ahead of Jordan now. We'll get the tyres up and see what everyone's running. It's the top 2 on medium, CJ on those hards, with Jess trying to mount a challenge on the back of Jordan. She's the first of 3 runners on the softs. Jordan trying to defend, and he defends well. Daniel and Chris behind Jess, all running the softs as well. So mixed strategies for the teams. Don't think any teammates are on the same compound. Like Bar Williams have gone for the same strategy. We're on board with the Red Bull. Is she closing the gap? Not quite. We'll get the tyres out the way now as it takes up a lot of the screen. But you know everyone's tyre running now. As Dark Shadow and Jake battling away at the back of the field for P15. Jake's won out in that battle early on to Schnow. Lewis now, this sort of phase in his race, he needs to hang on to Casper, get in the DRS and hope it's enough. Not use too much of that deployment to keep up. He's kind of draining the same as Casper at the moment, is Lewis. Casper sets the fastest lap, of course, and it looks like Baza making a move on Acorn for 12th. And well, Lewis now just about out of that DRS to Casper. He needs to hold on through the S section we go to come to the swoop left-hander down the hill. Don't accelerate too much on that curb. Come round the kind of long, slow right-hander there that's not a nice corner to drive. You just want the car to get going, but the more you put the pedal down, the car just seems to slip away, and Lewis has dropped out now of Casper's DRS, and it might be Casper sailing off into the sunset now. Although Lewis managing the ERS a lot better, 65% compared to Casper's 25%. Casper looking to make the gap big in the beginning phase of the Grand Prix so that he doesn't have the drama that he had in the early phases last time. Darky started 15th, up into 8th. Another good start for Darky. He needs to continue that. Darky obviously going to pick up another qualifying ban for Singapore next week. As Casper says, another quick lap, and now Jordan looking for a quick pass of CJ. If he can close the gap enough, CJ goes defensive and into the turn one, keeps the place. There was some beautiful car placement as well. Darky now in the back of Tony, slingshotting his way onto the back of the Williams, and he's going to be slingshotting his way through turn 4 with a massive lockup on the front right, and he got ahead, and well, that medium tyre won't be too happy about how much it was used to keep the place. As Darky goes off track, needs to recompose himself and get going away. We've sort of got a split now. It's sort of the top 7 and then everyone behind Darky, but Darky's not been leading this train. You'd imagine Darky be able to get up ahead. As Scottish Goat had a bit of contact with Acorn. Acorn seems to be okay and got ahead as Tony is back past Darky. Darky's struggling in the early phases. Scottish Goat now down the inside of Acorn and goes very, very deep, and that has cost him the opportunity. CJ on those hard compound tyres struggling to hang on to Lewis. He's 2.1 seconds back now, as Lewis is almost 2 seconds behind Casper. Going to be a long Grand Prix for Lewis Craig if he's going to be second in no man's land. As Casper begins the fourth lap of the Dive Bomb F1 Season 6 Bahrain Grand Prix. Is Darky now back past Tony. Tony back down the inside though. Tony obviously a race winner in his own right, back at Miami last season. Knows what it takes to win a Grand Prix in Dive Bomb. He was obviously very good in the championship standings towards the end of the season as well. I think he was 7th with 120 points plus. So he knows how to win Grand Prix, he knows how to get good results, but he doesn't really know how to fend off Darky, and they've made contact, and that's pushed him down the order. Unfortunate for the Williams driver, might be looked at later, we'll have to wait and see. Jordan now, back to Jordan, behind CJ. Kind of looking to make a move sooner rather than later if he wants any chance of catching Lewis. Lewis obviously 2.2 behind him. Casper can't hang on to him at the moment. But in 2 second places, Lewis would be quite happy with, you'd imagine. CJ now seems to be holding the rest of the field up in comparison to Lewis Craig. And Jordan now a lot closer to the back of CJ than he has been on previous laps, as we're on board now. And he gets ahead and onto the podium, but it's a bit of a moment through turn 2 and 3, but he peels away okay. He's got CJ right on his engine cover trying to make the move. You'd imagine down the inside here CJ will get it. And he's going to force Jordan all the way round the long way, and he's hanging on Jordan here, and he has done. The extra grip in the early phase on the mediums showing their true ability, and gets past CJ at those hards. Fantastic bit of driving from CJH and Jordan. Lewis now's well and truly dropped back from Casper as Darky is round. I think that was involved in his teammate. Dropped down to 14th place. That's just unfortunate for Darky there. I'm not sure if that was off his own volition. It didn't look like it was his fault. But the battle in this kind of final top 10 place for points is starting to spice up a lot. The two McLarens, Baza, Tony's there as well. Kaya doing very good out in 9th place, only a second behind Acorn. And if he can keep these drivers behind it, 9th for him would be a fantastic result here at Bahrain. He does have the pace, Kaya, in the tank. He just lacks that consistency as Jordan and CJH now battling away. Looks like CJ's got him back past for the time being. And you'll see in the run up to turn 4, Jordan probably come back at the driver as Darky picks up a 10-second penalty for the pits and retires from the session, unfortunately for Darky. Most pole positions in Dive Bomb history. Not going his way for the 2-time Grand Prix race winner in Dive Bomb F1, Darky. Not able to translate those poles into wins. He's got 9 poles. He's trying desperately for that 10th. Won't be getting it next week though in the first race because he'll be having a qualifying ban there at Singapore. And CJ seems to have set himself up nicely here. Post getting back into the podium hunt. Jess is just hanging on in 5th. Those softs are probably going to be running out soon. She'll be wanting a safety car round about now or come into the pits for the hard compound. But you'd be thinking that how long does she keep out on those tyres? Does she box? Does she come in? Does she come in and maybe risk the safety car coming out on the next lap? She's opening she's set the ERS to deploy. doesn't come into the pit lane, so she'll march on for 7 laps of the Bahrain Grand Prix on the soft compound. How much longer can her, Daniel and Chris go? 5th, 6th and 7th with a big gap to 8th. They're doing a pretty grand job of these soft compound tyres as well, and they all seem to be managing them relatively well. They've not dropped away from the medium runners, and they're not sort of creating gaps between themselves or making mistakes. They're all being consistent and all been fairly well in tyre management as well. So it's good to see from those soft drivers at the moment. Chris as well up in 7th. Again, another 7th place for Chris. A good night in comparison to what his season's been. Obviously a few podiums last season. He'll want to get a couple this season if he can. Obviously without the pace cap this year, it's a bit harder to do that. But we'll just have to wait and see. Acorn seems to have distanced himself from the battle behind. Tony's past Kaya. And then Baza will look to be the next driver to peel into the top 10. As we go to Jordan now. He's got a lot more battery in the pack compared to CJ. But it's all about the pit stops now. Who decides to go early? Lewis stays, everyone seems to be staying. Maybe everyone's too scared to make a pit. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the tyres will be okay. They've not been okay in previous years. They don't seem to last too long. But maybe this is a soft medium race. And the softs will go pretty fairly into this first stint. Obviously not the tyres any of them used in qualifying, so they've not been rubbered in or anything. But someone is looking good for it at the moment. CJH a second ahead. Almost. No DRS if he can make it over a second. As McLaren swap places in turn 4. But an opportunity here for Jordan and CJ to pick up a good podium result. Who will come out on top? We'll have to wait and see. Jess has kind of dropped back. Sorry, from Jordan. It's 1.8 the second gap now. Jess kind of struggling. That tyre wear starting to come into effect. She's dropped 2 seconds now, definitely. It is time to pit for the soft compound runners. And they're dropping behind. Daniel's them dropped Jess as well. So those softs are definitely done. All 3 soft runners going to have to come into the pits this time. We'll wait and see what they do. But you'd imagine they'd be in. Yes, Daniel's in. Jess stayed out. Chris stayed out. Daniel going for that undercut that worked for him in the last race where he picked up a few places and then was managing to defend other drivers. Off come the softs, on go the yellow banded medium compound tyre from Pirelli, and we're back underway for Ferrari. A fantastic stop from the Ferrari boys as well. And then he's down in 12th is the marksman, but he's got a long way to go, and a good outlap here could put some of the drivers around him under pressure. Looks like James has stopped as well. What is it Gamer James's box for? As Dark Shadow and Tony are battling away at turn 1, and it looks like Dark Shadow might have the advantage here as they come round down the hill, swooping left-hander. Dark Shadow does hang on round the outside, but he breaks, and that causes the Williams to go into the back of him. Not sure if it was a bit of an early break there from Kaya. We'll have to see later on. But Tony gets past him at the moment. Kaya's trying to fight it back though, and does so well. And Kaya hangs on to P8. They've got Baz and Jake behind who are yet to stop. And all of this just helping Gamer Jake get ahead of these guys with the undercut, which you imagine should work now that these guys have had a bit of a battle over the last few couple of corners. Jake, though, having a bit of a rough night in comparison to what he's done over previous seasons, and not been a great start to the season for him. Had a couple of good results at Qatar, and then I think he had a good result at Mexico last week as well. as Jess and Chris call it a day and come into the pits now. Here comes Baza on Tony. Dark Shadow in the pits as well. Goes to the right, does Baza. And now should take net P6 until all the pit stops have been made. Tony leaves the room and Baza takes it. Thank you very much. I'll move up into 6th place and I'll defend my position and hang on to it. So, Baza hangs on to 6th at the moment. The gap between Lewis and Casper, not spoken about it for a while, 5.7. The gap, Lewis trying his best to hang on, but he's managing the gap to CJ. I think it's all about 2nd place for Lewis now, barring in a safety car maybe brings Casper back within his grasp. But even then, he'd need to be ahead. Or at least manage his tyres and get some speed. Keep some grip in them for later on in case Casper makes a mistake. It doesn't look likely at the moment. He's sailing off into the sunset. He's used a lot more battery than Lewis. He's in that final 10%. You can see the blinking Christmas tree light on the Haas on the back as well. And then the race seems to have settled down now we're getting the pit stop. The only real battle we've got is the battle for 6th. It's Baza, Tony and Jake. Daniel's right on the back of Jess as well, so that's an opportunity of a battle as Jake gets past Tony. Chris, interesting to see where he is out behind Daniel, and he's 2.9 seconds behind. Bit of a weird one. Maybe something happened to Chris later on in the laps that have dropped him down so far, or maybe the undercut's just been so powerful that it's cost them a massive amount of time. CGH though, in within a second of Lewis Craig, so Lewis Craig's mediums starting to wear off, it would seem, and CJ's hards coming into their own sort of realm, and Lewis Craig, first of the leaders to box, Casper first of the leaders to box, they both boxed, so Lewis Craig now no undercut, he'll be hoping the safety car comes out for it. As the Haas driver starts to peel away in 3rd place. Lewis Craig, where's he in comparison to Jess? Quite far up the road actually. So Lewis is okay. 7 seconds behind Casper, he's got no chance of winning. In all honesty, bar a mistake, the Red Bulls are doing a bit of synchronised swimming. As we watch the chopper cam of the 2 Red Bulls, followed closely by Daniel Pio, and obviously Baza still to box. Be interesting to see what his tyre compound choice is. Possibly softs, you'd imagine, with this little left in the race. And then 1 extra lap to race once we finish this. Daniel right on the back now of Baza. It's Manxman versus Welshman. Ferrari power versus Ferrari power. It's Sauber versus Ferrari. Not Sauber. Red Bull versus Ferrari. Not able to make the move. And it looks like Jordan is now ahead of Acorn. Casper is now ahead of Acorn as they come into the pits. CJH not pitted yet. He's on the hards going a long distance into this race. He must be one of the few that want a safety car. That will allow him some time to go round the track. And CJ leads though, 11.8. That's about 19 ahead of Lewis. Pit stop around here is about 22 seconds, so he'll probably drop behind Lewis. Might manage to stay ahead of Jessica if it's a quick stop from the Racing Bulls drivers. Not drivers, engineers. And well, the gaps seem to be forming as CJ comes into the pits now. The gap's just forming in this race now. He's sort of getting to this lull stage. We swapped the safety cars from race 1 to race 2, and then it's not come out, so it's not closed the field up as intended as CJ comes on to the softs. Casper sets the fastest lap on the softs as well. Dark Shadow though, he's on the back of Scottish Goat for P9. On lap 14, here comes Kaya now, looking to pick up an extra point. And Kaya's doing a fantastic job for Mercedes in this Grand Prix. It's only 9th place, but scoring points like he did in Austria. Scored more points than his teammate in Austria and in Bahrain tonight. And that is what Mercedes need him to do, and he's looking like he's going to get passed back down the inside by the Ferrari of Scottish Goat, but he hangs on around the outside, does Kaya, and he's doing everything in his power to take the position off him, and he has done. Fantastic for him. Up into 9th place. Can he close as Tony goes down the inside as well? And he's up into 10th place, so as these guys seem to be the only kind of battle on track around this sort of phase of the Grand Prix. The McLarens and Baza behind as well are in on it too if they can close that 3-second gap. That's Jessica and Jordan swapping places. Scottish Goat picks up a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Obviously going for the fastest lap, possibly. Softs on. Yep, another set of softs as Jake and Baza battling in turn 1. Looks like Jake has got the better of the most Grand Prix race driver in dive bomb history. Is Baz able to come back at him here on lap 15? 6 laps to go, just under 6 laps, and it looks like Casper's on his way to a 3rd victory in 4 races for the Finnish driver. He's dropped Lewis by about 9.5 seconds. Lewis doesn't have an answer for him tonight. His Mexico performance was outstanding last week. Just not enough in the tank this week to mount a challenge to Casper. And while the race has calmed down a bit, we'll just have a quick wee advert. It's Dive Bomb Season 7, 2026, back next year. Reverse grids for the first time in Dive Bomb history in the second race of the night. The top 14, if they finish the race, will start in opposite order in the second race. And that will begin January 7th, 2026. So make sure you tune back in for that. Maybe I'll be on the racetrack. Maybe we'll find another commentator. Or maybe it'll be me in the comments box. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the Christmas period. But back to Season 6. And it's back to Baza versus Jake. 2 experienced drivers as Tony looking to get past Kaya. Out in front ahead. Kaya's battling away back at it though. And it looks like Baza might just have Jake. He'll try do the switchback But Baza, too wise and too clever for that, but the speed of the McLaren down the straight is not something Wisdom has the answer to, because Jake going to go back down the inside. Baza's going to try, hang on around the outside, and does so. Experience in the Red Bull cockpit alongside Jessica manages to hang on to 11th place, and their march for the championship in the Constructors is just starting to begin now, with Jess scoring another 10 points and Baza picking up 4 at the moment. Doing what he can to support his teammate. This battle and Kaya and Tony are the only battles that are within DRS zone. Chris is close to Daniel, but not close enough to mount a challenge. Same for Jess and Jordan. But it's just not quite close enough to watch the action at the moment, so we'll stick to where the battles are happening, and the battles are happening at the back end of the field for the final few points. And we say this in the Constructors battle all the time. There always seems to be a driver in a team at the top, winning races and winning podiums and things. But it seems to be the Constructors always come down to the second choice driver. The driver in the second seat that picks up the 11th or the 14th. Picking 11th and getting 4 points is so much more valuable than coming home in 14th and 1 point. There's so much difference in that. 3 points over 20 races just can win you a championship, can help your teammate win a championship. Lewis doesn't have that luxury at the moment. He doesn't have a teammate, so he's not helped. But Wace doesn't have a teammate, unfortunately, as well. So that just sort of strikes you down and makes it more difficult to score points and win races. But they're doing everything they possibly can, these boys up front, to win these races and try win the championship in the Constructors. Obviously, the Constructors is a very tightly contested achievement in dive bomb that we've recently. Obviously, the Haas drivers of Jordan and Tony picked it up last season. Deck and Ryan have had it in the past. And Jake and Jess were quite keen on it as well, back when Jess won the championship in the dive bomb coverage of TGP2. It's a very sought after achievement, and you might not win the Drivers' Championship. It's very difficult to do. We've had 5 champions in 5 seasons here in dive bomb. It's quite hard to be consistent in dive bomb. But picking up the Constructors is a good way to be honoured and go down in history in the league. Obviously, we keep a hold of all the champions and race starts, podiums, wins, points. We've got all that available to us. And Baza is just about to complete race 73, and I think this will take him over 400 race points. I would need to double check that. It would at least get him a hell of a lot closer as they make contact. Him and Kaya make contact. Looks like it's going to be okay though, and hopefully not too much damage. We'll watch the the Mercedes, and they make contact that time, and that's damage. Damage big time on the front wing of the Red Bull, and Baza's not going to be too happy with that. Kaya seems to be braking very early into that corner, and it's got a few drivers out over the last few laps, especially in this second stint. And I tell you what, someone who's having a sneaky good second stint is CJ. He's catching up to Lewis now. He's used a lot of the battery to do that, but he's only 8 tenths off. He's in the DRS now with 2 laps to go, CJ. Chris Johnson, his teammate as well, is in the DRS of Daniel. Can the Racing Bulls march a late attack for P2 and P6? We'll have to wait and see. We're watching CJ now chase Lewis. This is the battle for the second step on the podium. Lewis wants to win that championship, giving CJ the opportunity to gain some points on him. It may only be 3, but that might be vital come the end of the season, as they've both got the Christmas tree blinking red lights on the back as they both harvest. CJ up into 60% battery. Lewis just under 70%. 2 drivers that have a great respect for each other and a great racing etiquette. Obviously, there was a wee moment in Austria, but other than that, they seem to have sorted it out and seem to be doing okay. The gap is coming down and down and down between the Racing Bull and the Alpine. The gap that isn't coming down is to Casper. He's sailed off into the sunset, 12 seconds ahead of second place. And you'd imagine second place is no longer going to be Lewis Craig. It's going to be CJH as Casper begins the 20th and last tour of the Suzuka International Circuit. And Lewis Craig is going very defensive very quickly. Moves to the right, goes to the left. He can no longer make another move. And CJ gets past. Lewis made his defensive move early, went back to the right. He done his 2 moves. That's him done. He cannot move any longer before the braking zone. He had to stay on the left, and that allowed CJ through. And this is it. The last opportunity for Lewis now. Into turn 4. If he's going to be second, it's now or never. Down the inside he goes, and they make big contact. And Lewis is round, but he's managed to get back going. And it was do or die for Lewis Craig. And it was kind of similar to what CJ did to Lewis on at turn 4 at Austria, turn 3, sorry, at Austria. Maybe just getting one back at CJ there. And well, Lewis Craig going to have to settle now for P2 as Jake and Baza battling away. It looks like Baza has just been passed by Jake. Will he be able to get back ahead? This is probably the last overtaking opportunity now. Looks like it's not going to be enough for Baza tonight to get that position, but it's now Scottish Go. Daniel P. Whelan and Chris Johnson. Do they have what it's got to get? But we've got to go to the front. It's 2 wins on the night for Casper. Plenty of experience shown, and he wins commandingly in both Grand Prix. Congratulations to Casper for picking up the race victory here at Bahrain in race 81. He is the race winner of 81 and 80 and picks up 3 wins in dive bomb, with CJH coming home in second. Lewis will settle for third. Jordan, a good quiet race from Jordan. He'll come home in fourth. Same goes for Jess Game. She's going to come home in fifth. Daniel P. Wheelnut, will he be able to hang on from Chris Johnson? He will. It's 6 for Chris, 6 for Daniel, 7 for Chris. Acorn had a good second stint as well. He has some early on drama. But he's going to manage 8th for Acorn. It's going to be 9th for Tony. Managed to peel away from the drama behind. And did manage to get 9th in the end. Jake will get 10th. Baza comes home in 11th. And Dark Shadow 12th. Or will it be Gamer James? It will be Dark Shadow, then Gamer James. And Scottish Goat rounds out the points and rounds out tonight's episode of DBF1. We just want to thank you again for showing your commitment to the league and watching over the hour and a half that we've provided the entertainment for. And boy, was it some good entertainment. Casper wins 2 races in a row. That is his 3rd dive bomb victory and will place him inside the top 10 wins of all time. Lewis Craig only managed third this time, with CJ on that second step on the podium. So fantastic for CJ to close the gap at the top of the championship. Jordan came home in 4th, and Jess rounded out the top 5, and the drivers have scored double-digit points. But that's been it for Dive Bomb over the night. It's been another fantastic night of action. We'll get the results up for you once again, just in case you didn't quite see them at the end. But it's been another great night. It's been another fantastic episode. And next week will be rounds 9 and 10, halfway through season 5. God, seems season 6, sorry. It seems like only yesterday we crowned Waste champion of season 5. It's been a fantastic few nights in Dive Bomb so far this season, and with the week break coming up soon, all to play for with Jess Games and Baza. The Red Bulls taking their risk race next week. There was no risk race tonight. Everyone has selected theirs. We've got plenty of action coming in the next few weeks. Make sure you tune in. There's only one place to catch the action, and that's here on DB Sports TV. I've been Jack Craig, and I'll see you all next week.